Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to Trucks. Hello, thank you. Welcome to Trucks. Thanks.
Hi, I'm also Trucks.
That's Isaac. I'm Josh. Thank you for tuning in. It's time for Trucks.
Can you tell that we're not chomping at the bit to get down to the subject of today's Trucks?
I need you to refresh me on exactly what it is that you want to talk about.
Alrighty. Well, that's always a good start.
I know the general subject, but what is the approach? What?
Well.
Thank you for tuning in, by the way.
Yeah. Thank you for tuning into Trucks. Now that we've buried Homestuck, we appreciate you sticking around, and are not likely to get car seat headrest on again.
If you're listening, Will
Grover, yeah.
we miss you.
We keep having to. There's all these folks that are sort of popping up in your wake. Big car seat headrest fans. Anyway, so as long as I've known you, Josh, you've struggled with motivation. Would that be fair to say? That's not the right way.
Yep. I don't know if motivation is the word.
Oh, well, maybe we'll start by defining our terms. As long as let me put it to you this way: as long as I've known you, you have struggled to do the things that you want to do.
Yeah, that is unambiguously true.
Mm-hmm. So it's not a matter of you not knowing what it is that you want to do, or not wanting to do nothing. It's a matter of you want to do the thing, you feel prepared to do the thing, but you can't do it.
Yeah.
There is some sort of disconnect afoot.
Yeah.
And I've over the years tried to sort of armchair diagnose you with various ailments, because that this is because my long-term squeeze / best friend Alexis went through college like that, and then after college was diagnosed with ADD and got on ADD meds, and suddenly those issues certainly didn't go away, but they got a lot easier for her to deal with.
Yeah.
But it was exactly that sensation that she described of I'm interested in the reading. I want to do the reading, but I can't make myself do the reading.
Yeah.
But then there's a galaxy of things that ADD is like.
Sure.
Because ADD is not actually a thing. It's just a word that people use to describe a set of symptoms, which has a lot of overlap with a bunch of other sets of symptoms. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know, and I'm not a doctor, and
the drugs would probably help.
And the drugs might help.
Hard to know for sure. I'm closer than I have been in a long time to seeing a doctor.
I'm really happy to hear that, man. After a while, I kind of gave up prodding you about it and think, it's it's sort of thing that'll happen or it won't. But as with a lot of things, and this is a conversation that I was just having just now, the past doesn't have to define the future. We can actually change our deals, even if it seems impossible.
Yeah.
And even if the sheer weight of the amount of time we spent not changing our deals makes it feel impossible, you can always just do something else and see what that does for you.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It quite maddeningly does not feel impossible. It just feels out of reach. It feels way possible.
Tantalizingly close, but
yes.
Much like, doing any
exactly
might for you feel tantalizingly close, but also just out of reach. But I think that one of the things that I wanted to talk about today was that specifically, and that is one reason why Trucks doesn't come out very often. But also just I've dealt with similar things in my life, although I think not nearly to the same extent as you have. And I wanted to talk a bit about the strategies that we've found that help with that kind of thing, without medical intervention.
You might have to be alone in that.
Oh no. Circumstances that make it worse, just what it feels like. I mean,
sure.
I want to. if you can't, if you're not at a point where you can like provide, you know, like this is the way that I deal with this because I don't have a way to deal with this. At least like describe what you're feeling. You know, describe what it's like. And
shitty.
Maybe
it's shitty.
Well, that was succinct. Do you have any follow up for that, or like is shitty where you want to leave it?
I mean, I could go on about how shitty it feels.
Oh, jeez. I don't also mean for this to be a let's call out Josh and torture him on trucks. And if that's what it feels like,
it's hard. It does feel a little like that, but not. It doesn't have to. It just kind of, you know, I'm used to being nagged about this kind of thing. It tends to be the case that when people encounter this about me, they think, well, I'll nag him. That'll probably help.
Yeah, and it's like that is, and I can say this, having been your friend for years, that is one thing that objectively does not help.
Yep, all it really does is compound.
Only makes it harder and makes you feel bad and makes the person who's doing it feel bad.
Exactly.
And so
compounds
that's
the
not what this is
anxiety,
about.
compounds the self-loathing.
Yeah.
Just makes me wish even more that I was doing the thing.
It's like, you know, somebody comes up to you and says, do the flap, do the flap, do the flap. And do the flap, idiot. Just do the flap like this. Do the flap. And you're like, you're asking me to move in a direction that I do not perceive.
Yeah.
This helps no one, and it is making both of us angry and upset. So yeah, no, that's not what this is about. Like, I obviously very much appreciate and love you as you are.
Thanks.
But it is, my concern is like not, you know, I want Josh to continue to do things for me. As he has done. Yeah, and you've done a remarkable number of things for me over the years and with me, despite struggling with this, which I am extremely grateful for. But also, like, you know, this obviously causes you distress. And like I think you've organized your life in a certain way to minimize the amount of distress it causes you by minimizing how much it comes up.
Well,
you know, to the extent that you can be said to consciously
it's hard to it's hard to say how much I've done that and how much that's just the course things have followed as a natural result.
It's like there's some analog to my depression and anxiety in that, because part of the reason that I am where I am in my life is that I've made a lot of decisions over the years which were bent on minimizing my exposure to things that were likely to cause my symptoms to flare up. Mm-hmm. You know, like being particularly social or being in a position where I have responsibility, because that makes my anxiety, which I didn't even think that I had, even though I obviously had. For years, I was like, oh, anxiety, no, I've got depression, but, you know, anxiety doesn't feel like something that I have. But I fret like a motherfucker.
Sure.
You know, and particularly when I feel like I did something wrong or, you know, something that I am in charge of is going badly, like I can get the paralyzing anxiety for like days. And part of the reason that I have always gravitated toward positions where I don't particularly have any authority one way or the other, unless I feel like completely in control of the situation, is just that like it just is too miserable to push against it, you know?
Yeah.
And there's a certain extent to which if you have would it be fair to call them like problems with executive function?
I think
or
so.
Is that
it
if
feels like just kind of watching myself do things sometimes, wishing I was doing something else.
Yeah. So disassociation on top of, which is another one of those ADD things, is that whether you want it to or not, it's going to shape your life, because you're obviously going to, you know, try to make that immediate feeling of misery less palpable or come up less often, right?
Sure. I don't think I have any useful insights on this subject, to be honest.
Maybe, I mean, I think that I think that it's like, this isn't one of those trucks where we're going, and this is how we fix the problem,
Yeah.
you know, and we're going to help you with it. This is, I think, one of those things where just putting it out there is maybe a useful or a decent thing to do.
Yeah, maybe. If you're
If
a
you know what I
prospective
mean.
employer of mine, don't watch this Trucks.
Well, I mean, also, it's a starting point, right?
Sure.
Like you said that you were like closer to being able to visit the doctor than before, and
The reason for that is because I am on Medicaid, and a doctor has started calling me, the one that has been assigned to me by Medicaid, saying like, "Hey, can we make an appointment?" I haven't actually managed to take any of their calls yet. They've gone to voicemail. I'm sooner or later gonna wake up during the day and call them and make an appointment because I have their number. Any day now, this will happen.
I believe it. I'm not going to try to remind you to do it or to tell you to do it or anything like that, because as we have already established,
I know that I need to
minus
do
helpful. Yeah. So I'm just going to give you the big pray hands emoji for that.
Thanks.
Like, but these are the wiggles, you know. These are, and it's like, I say this also because, you know, when we deal with potentially like life fucking brain issues, it's sometimes unpredictable what's going to happen to make it better or worse, you know?
Yeah.
Worse, we have a great deal of understanding of. But I kind of wanted to talk about, like, I'm currently doing like what is essentially like hard manual labor for a living. You know, I walk all day in the sun and carry heavy things. And one consequence of this that I'm finding is like my anxiety is not gone, because it never is. There's never such thing as a cure for any of this shit. But it's calmed down a lot. It's calmed down to the extent that I can notice that it was there and think about it, you know, in a more effective way.
Because of the hard labor?
Yeah, because I'm too tired to be freaking out. Like, that doesn't seem, of course, like a good long-term solution to the problem.
Stand by. I'm being advised that there's a complication with the route, and there it is.
Yeah, that sure does look like a complication with the route.
It's manual adjustment, strongly recommended, it says, so let's manually adjust. I only know how to go this way. Oh no.
Oh, that's not good.
Oh
God.
Well, can I do a 180 and go this way instead?
That seems like the best approach given the circumstances. Let's try that.
Is there a way for me to turn around here? Not really.
I mean, sheer brute force.
There's like there's empty space between me and the other direction. We are on you see what I mean here?
We're on a divided highway.
Yeah. So how do I get back onto that side of that way? I get off of that exit, I go around here. I do an illegal...
You could go over the median strip over there, it looks like, yeah. Potentially.
And then, go over the median strip. Right there. Okay, that is in fact the place you can do it. Okay, great. So the exit I want to do that is in fact this one down here, down here. Okay, we got it.
Groovy.
Problem solved. I'm gonna have to open the map again later. You were saying...
I was saying that, you know, so like making your body too tired to bug you and like basically changing your chemical balance that way.
That is a thing, yeah. When I find that I've been... It's not exactly the same thing, but when I find that I've been awake for like a couple days, I often have a surge of productivity.
Oh God, when I find that I've been awake for a couple of days, I would hug you right now if that were physically possible. But yeah, like, and of course it's not something that I could have done if I had not put myself in a situation where external factors were forcing me to do it. You know, like, I couldn't have been like, oh, I'm depressed, I will go out and like do hard exercise for 6 hours and that'll probably help my depression. Because, of course, it's very hard to do that under the best of circumstances when you have no external motivation or structure helping you do it. And B, like, you're depressed, so you can't just go do it.
Yeah.
In the first place. If you could go do it in the first place, there wouldn't be a fucking problem. A really frustrating catch-22.
Yes.
So I think that part of it is, or part of the way that one deals with these things is to find a foothold of like psychic clarity that you essentially get by tricking yourself. Like, as batshit as that sounds, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, well, here's an interesting shift to your route.
Yeah, it's still telling me to do the 180 and turn and go the way I can't, but hopefully that'll fix itself soon.
Cool. Let's look at the big map again real quick.
Yeah, we're on track to go this way.
Oh, perfect. I like that they've started throwing these in. It makes the game slightly less
slightly
passive.
less podcasty, but so it goes.
Yeah. And also unexpectedly adds to the length of a given episode on occasion, which can be a real spanner in the works if you are, you know, like us, trying to pick things that have a specific length of time.
Making our lives unnecessarily difficult in podcasting was always the goal, so
yeah,
I embrace it.
We sure managed that too. Like, you know, obstacles are the soul of creativity, as Brian Eno or Ratz's typewriter friend would have it.
Isn't it magical how no matter what we're talking about, the same exact shit going on in the trucks game becomes a metaphor for what we're talking about?
I mean, that's one of the reasons why this podcast format is so flexible and brilliant, I want to say. Like, all right, now we have a new route to follow.
Yeah, let's see if it's the right one yet.
Yep.
Sweet. Okay.
That is the one. And how many hours does that add to
I'm not sure.
the end-game clock?
We are now at the 505 miles count that we began at. So all of this so far has been extra.
It's sweet.
I'll drive fast.
Brace yourself for that, truckos. But so yeah, like I think. But as I was saying, I think that sometimes we have to set ourselves up to be put into uncomfortable situations which require certain things from us. And of course, sometimes what that does is it's too much for us and we end up quitting or running off or having a meltdown. And, you know, it can go one way or the other, but sometimes it rewrites or rebalances our chemistry to the extent where we can actually get a few important things done.
Right.
As I used the leftover energy that I have from not working after 4 days of frankly backbreaking work to like really scrub the toilet and try to get the mold out of the shower curtain today.
Yeah.
Oh God, I still smell like bleach. And isn't that the life that you want to be living? A clean toilet life where you smell like bleach.
Managed to clean my room the other day.
Oh, congratulations! That's as we've established, that is a genuine accomplishment, and also, given what your room occasionally is like, possibly a significant Herculean labor.
The significant undertaking was the last time I did it. I've managed to stay, relatively on top of it. Because a messy room is definitely, I've noticed, one of those things that compounds the issue of me feeling trapped in an unproductive body. That's why the room as an extension of the body and all.
That's why I've been desperately trying to, eke out energy to keep my apartment relatively clean now for exactly that reason. Mm-hmm. That works the same way on my mental health than it does on yours, I think.
Yeah.
Because when you're in a messy room, you're constantly surrounded, or in a messy environment, you're constantly surrounded by things that you should be doing.
Yeah. Which,
as we've established, encountering things that you should be doing makes it much more difficult to do anything.
Yes, very true.
And particularly if there is a profusion of things that you should be doing. Because then then not only is there a profusion of things that you should be doing around you at all times that you can't ignore, but then also the meta list of things that you should be doing, like making a list of things that you should be doing, comes into play.
Yeah.
And there is nothing more horrific than the thought of making a list of things that you should be doing.
Yes, it's true.
So what I'm saying, I guess, is that I get it, and a lot of times when I get to this point in my excavation of my own bullshit, it makes me look back at encounters I've had with other people's bullshit and like what I did in those circumstances. And it's like, wow, I did exactly the wrong thing consistently.
Yeah.
For months, for years.
It happens.
Browbeating you into trying to get you to like finish editing the video that you're kindly editing for me that, has nothing to do with your output or your projects, and accomplishing nothing but making us both miserable by doing that. So
sure. I'm used to it.
Belated I know you are, but still, like, once you have those breakthroughs, you do have to kind of go back and say sorry.
Sure.
I'm sorry, buddy.
I appreciate it.
And crawl onward as best as one can.
I was just about to ask, what's the line from Great Gatsby? And so we beat on, or whatever.
Yes, ceaselessly borne back into the past, or we beat on boats against the current, ceaselessly borne back into the past, I think is the line.
Good line.
Yeah, but not accurate. I would like that's my point in my thesis for this Trucks.
Explain.
Is that Scott Fitzgerald was an asshole, and B,
sure.
I think that it is, although there is that in the sense that you always keep dealing with the same things that you deal with. And I think that, like, if you go back and listen to Trucks as a whole, like some kind of maniac, which people have been known to do, you'll notice the same topics coming up over and over again over the years that we've been doing this, with like slightly different takes every time.
Sometimes exactly the same takes on my part.
Sometimes exactly the same takes, which may read as slightly disheartening.
That was one of the reasons I wanted to do Trucks a little less often than we were doing it, is because I felt myself becoming repetitive, and that is something I have said on Trucks before.
Yeah, there you go. It doesn't have to be like that, though.
Yeah.
And occasionally one learns how to say new things.
Yeah. It takes time sometimes. You just gotta allow. This is like a different topic than our real topic. But you gotta allow yourself some time to refine some different thoughts.
I don't know if it's necessarily a different topic than our main topic, because I think that particularly for folks like us who are very much in our heads and very much about letting concepts drive our choices, if that's an accurate thing to say.
I'm having trouble. It sounds good. I don't know exactly what it means.
We're not. Neither you nor I are particularly instinctual actors. Maybe I'll put it that way. Like,
could be. I don't know.
But maybe
I feel like
maybe that's not the point that I'm.
Sure.
Maybe that's beside the point. So we'll delete that parenthetical. Like, maybe it's not so much about. But like, when you think, it's like it takes a while to come up with a new thought, right? It takes a while to come up with a new angle on things.
Yeah. Need some new stimulus. That's not always easy to come by.
You need to widen your diet in order to come out with new things. In order to produce new and interesting varieties of shit, you have to eat new and interesting things. That's possibly not the best metaphor that I could have chosen there. But the this is me organizing my thoughts in real time. It's always great to do a trucks without organizing your thoughts beforehand, because then you get to hear the long and arduous process of coming up with new ideas in real time.
Oh God, yes.
Nicely done. But the point is that there's the process of coming up with new things to think about your own self is, I think, analogous.
True. Yeah.
And I think that the way that one's behavior actually changes is that one's self-image changes. If you're not able to conceive of yourself behaving in a different way, because that behavior doesn't add up with everything that you know about yourself, then it doesn't even admit the possibility of behaving differently, right?
Right.
And and by this, I'm not trying to be like, all you have to do is change your perspective and everything will be great.
I hear that fairly often.
You hear that fairly often, and it's bullshit. It is absolute fucking bullshit. Because, like, where does that come from? Like, you can't change your perspective without new information.
All you have to do is think more like me. Be more like
exactly.
the way I am.
Just do
it's easy
yoga.
for me, so...
Right. Get outside more. Like, go for walks.
Make different choices.
Yeah, not the ones that you always make and always had make, but other ones that... like, from this list of things that, Yeah, no, that is absolutely not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that I think that... what I'm saying is that I think there is such a thing as having...
as reinventing oneself.
Having personal... It's not even reinventing oneself, it's like rediscovering oneself. If that makes any sense. Coming up with new interpretive frameworks for the facts in your life.
Yeah.
And usually that doesn't happen out of whole cloth either. Usually, like, it's from contact with somebody, with a new person who has a new way of thinking about you, or,
right.
You are forced by awful circumstances to have to reevaluate, your history. And
that is the other thing, is that a lot of these things are kind of determined by the path of least resistance. Like, if my life depended on productivity, I would probably be a more productive person.
Yes. And, like, you're not going to engineer a circumstance in which that's going to happen, because that would be stupid.
Yeah, not very easily
also
anyway. Sometimes people do write books on how to do that kind of thing, but it's all like, adopt this extremely, like, ascetic lifestyle, where you don't do anything for pleasure ever, like, and you don't have the opportunity to. And it's like, okay, I feel like if I were capable of doing this, then I would already have been capable of doing everything else that I wanted to.
Yeah. No, like, my feeling is that there's the step before that in those books, which does not tend to get mentioned, is is that I hit rock bottom and decided to get my shit together moment.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely necessary for that and cannot be engineered.
Yeah.
That has to happen to you. And nobody will make that happen to themselves, because it's the least pleasant sensation that you can imagine.
Right. Maybe someone can. Credit to that person.
Yeah, no, I mean, but it's like, if that was the sort of... If making yourself... We've already established that making yourself do things that are pleasant and that you want to do is very difficult.
Yes.
Making yourself do things that are unpleasant, like calling a doctor.
Right.
Is
that is worth stressing. It's like, people think that it's just the unfun stuff that I can't make myself do, right? A lot of the time it's like, gee, I should, even sometimes it's like, I should play a video game, that's what I want to do. And I look at the list of video games and I'm like,
God, this is like, it's just so to the letter exactly what the feeling of ADD has been described to me by lots and lots of people.
And it's everything from, like, everything slightly more difficult than that, of course, as well, like being creative or getting a meal to eat.
Yeah. God, the fucking meal struggle, I've been like, and again, even though mine is of a slightly different flavor, like I've been there. The thing when your like decision muscles are sapped by whatever it is that's sapping them, just like I have to feed myself tonight can be such a fucking
Luckily, I'm an extremely
terrifying process.
Luckily,
well, not
I'm a very food motivated dog, so.
Yeah, that is definitely.
Usually the meal thing isn't too much of a struggle to me. I love to eat.
I mean, there are places that I'm getting, because I have also like eating disorder shit on top of this, which is a thing that I have also had to sort of come to terms with more recently. But like when my like depression and anxiety sort of intersected with self-hatred about my weight, like I could spend hours just sort of trying to figure out a thing that I could allow myself to eat on a given night. Which like never resulted in my losing weight or anything like that. It just made my life more unpleasant. So, as a tangent, the whole like my madness feeds my creativity, don't medicate me because I'll lose that special spark is just such utter horseshit.
Right.
Because what this shit does is just because the fucking sickness makes it harder for you to do things, and being creative is a thing that you do.
Yeah.
It's like,
it might I think what people get confused about here is that sometimes these problems can serve as inspiration and you can make art about them. And if you didn't have those problems, you would have made different art probably, but that's not the same thing as you would be a worse artist without those things to make art about.
Yeah. And like also miserable people vibe with art by miserable people, and vibe less with art when that art becomes less miserable. And that's not the same as a change in quality necessarily, It's just a preoccupation with different topics. The topics of non-miserable people.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what I hope for is just a
so many things.
I do hope for so many things, but I guess what I'm hoping for here is just sharing the sensation of progress.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean, like just sort of a general reminder that it exists.
Yeah.
That it's not all entirely hopeless. That the same patterns don't keep repeating forever.
Yeah.
I
guess I'm making a little progress too. That's worth holding on to.
It totally fucking is worth holding. It's worth celebrating, right? It's worth, it's worth noticing it.
Yeah.
And letting
focus
that be a thing.
Focus on that instead of all the other stuff, all the stuff you still have to do. Is
exactly.
A good tip.
Because if you're feeling shitty about yourself, that does not make doing anything any easier.
Right.
In fact, quite the opposite.
Hey. Yes.
Well, all right. Well, maybe that's how we'll ride out this longer than normal because of a problem trucks.
I'm shifting into high gear. There's still a chance that you will make it.
Hey, there's the balloon. That's a good augury, I think.
Love the balloon.
Yeah. But let's do some positivity trucks.
Positivity
trucks. You got anything that you feel good about that you would like to speak on?
I cleaned my room. I already said that one.
You did. I mean, that's again not an unimpressive accomplishment. And
it's getting cooler, which means I'm gonna be less hesitant to go outside.
God, yes. No, the fucking this last week was such a physically miserable experience being outdoors, and of course I have no choice. I have to be outdoors all the time. But like I'm looking forward to fall with a fervor that I don't think that I've experienced in many a year. I'm looking forward to being cold.
Mm-hmm.
Looking forward to being wet. I'm looking forward to being out in the dark delivering mail.
Yeah.
It's going to be great. And when I am in exactly 3 trucks time complaining about it, y'all can remember this one and file it away.
The complaining is still valid. Sometimes you gotta vent it.
100%. I'm glad that we there was definitely some decision, like we had some discussions when we were going to create a designated complaining area in the trucks Discord. Whether that was a good idea or not, whether it invited negativity, but I think it was on the whole a very good idea.
Yeah.
I think that folks need to have a place to do it.
Yeah, it's had a lot of positive effects.
It's not content, as I think that you pointed out. One's misery does not have to be content.
This is definitely a social ailment that everybody has to think of everything they do as some kind of content. I think it's a recent development. Well, maybe it's not that recent. David Foster Wallace wrote about it in the 90s, but it's relatively recent.
It's certainly not recent among artists.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
As we but now that everybody is a creative type, you know, to a certain extent, because everybody has their own publishing platform.
DFW probably mostly wrongly blamed it on TV, but I think there is a certain kernel of truth to that. Just we've all gotten used to consuming people on such a large scale that we can't help but view ourselves through that lens. Anyway, that's a tangent. But I mean, it's a closely related tangent, Consider if that's playing a role in your mental health, maybe. You don't have to be content.
Like, I think one of my sort of, when I'm fucked up, one of the things that happens to me is that I tend to see human relationships in a very sort of mercenary way like that. You know, what does the outgo from this person versus the inflow? Is the amount of effort I'm putting into this worth the enjoyment that I get out of this? And whereas when I'm not in that mode, I'm like, oh, people.
Yeah.
I feel like things like empathy and affection for people, as opposed to it being just sort of a game of like.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. People aren't computers either. They're not content and they're not computers. There's nothing like people.
They're not investments.
Yeah.
Which is not, of course, to say that you should
not invest
put all
in
of
people.
your energy into something, which is not to say that you shouldn't invest in people, and is also not to say that you shouldn't uninvest in people if they are a pit of suck that is dragging you down with them.
Right.
Because you can't drag anybody out. I think this ties back in. You can't drag anybody out of their pit of suck. It will make things worse. What you can do is provide a different vibe.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about vibe lately. You can provide a sort of a like, hey, there's a different way to go about doing things. Yeah. But if you try to like dive into somebody's pit of suck to take them out of there, you will end up in the pit of suck and they will not come out of it.
Unless you're a qualified professional.
That is my experience, yes. No, all of the sort of white knight narrative, I will help this person get through this thing.
You can help them get through it, but not by rescuing them from it. You can provide support. You can give them other things to focus on. But what you should not do is try to repair them.
Yeah, that is 100% their job. The repairing.
Yeah.
And of course, and one reason for that is because I think the process of repair is about fixing or changing your own personal narratives, and you don't have access to whatever that is,
Yeah.
You don't, because they can't express that part of themselves or that, that angle on their narrative. You're not going to know it and be able to like teach it to them. You're going to teach them to be the person you think they are, and that's not going to take. That's not going to work.
I have another thing to be positive about.
Please.
I'm slowly making new friends, working my way into new social scenes.
Oh, that is excellent news.
Is it? Huh?
Go for it.
Just, a while back, most of my friends moved out of the city, so it's been, it's not to blame them for my loneliness or whatever, but that was a difficult thing to deal with. So
yeah, before I one of those friends left, There was like a definite attrition as more as like more and more people I know moved out of the city, and I failed to replace them.
It's a particularly New Yorkish thing, I think. It's a city that people don't like to stay in.
And
But yeah, slowly fixing it.
yeah, no, that is definitely positive. I've made a work friend.
Oh, good.
You know, that's a sort of a shrug and a thumbs up, but I'm not feeling a lack of human interaction at this point.
I got the poker people to all express interest in rebuilding the poker night, but then when I actually text them, how about this weekend, no one answers. Well, what gives? What's the trick?
Speaking of the New York experience.
Yeah, and the last time we all hung out, we were like, this is like everybody said, like, yeah, I felt really cooped in and lonely lately.
Yeah.
So it's really good to be out and hanging out.
Trying to excavate people from their routines when their routines are brutal, as like pretty much everybody's routine in New York is brutal, is just like, you're asking me to do what? It's one of those things where it's like the giant catch-22 of doing things that make you feel better is that you don't have the energy to do the things that make you feel better. You can't spend the activation cost. But I think my way of dealing with it, or our way, the reason that it worked before was because of Julian. Because he would just either do it or not, you know. Willing to make it a priority or not. I haven't spoken to him in ages, and I'm sure that the next time he floats into my life, it'll be just as if no time has passed.
Yeah, good old Julian.
Yeah, you need to get somebody involved who's going to be willing to just be the anchor.
Yeah, I'm willing. I just don't know how.
Well, willing is once again like
it's a vibe thing.
Willing is not the important part.
I've been learning over the last few years, as you alluded to earlier, that there is nothing more important than the vibe. And it's very hard to manufacture the vibe.
It really
but the vibe
does
determine
define
so much.
What is possible and what isn't, you know?
Yeah.
Like, the vibe is maybe another word for like the norms of the society in which one lives, you know?
Yeah, but also just kind of that unspeakable psychic connection between people. I guess those could be the same thing almost, but it operates on many levels. Yeah, inexpressible, I think.
Unspeakable psychic connection.
Inexpressible, let's go with.
Yeah. No, I think that's absolutely the thing. Like the thing that people become, and you sort of got to watch yourself from becoming a monster for defending, you know, that sense. But I think that's the sense that makes people like super protective to a fault of their communities, you know.
Yeah.
Is that feeling of ease, you know, and mutual support that you get among like-minded people is really hard to manufacture and easy to lose.
Join the Trucks Discord, folks.
Well,
we've got
maybe not if you don't get the right vibe. If you don't get the right vibe, fuck off.
We've got an incredible vibe in the Trucks Discord. It's amazing.
It is what it is. I think that it's all about possibility. Yeah. It's all about the possibility of change. You see some people like just having the continuity in the Trucks Discord where some people have like just obviously gotten their shit together a little bit as time has gone on, or become, you know, switched up aspects of their vibe, and I'm including myself in this.
Yeah.
Like, I think that I'm less of a capricious tyrant than I used to be by a margin.
Isn't it amazing that those of us who do not have their shit together can nonetheless be helpful in helping people get their shit together? I think the moral of this story is that the solution to all problems is people reaching out to one another, and not in the kind of classic white dude way, where like you told me about your problem, I'm gonna like propose some solutions to your problem.
Okay,
But just
no, active listening, ladies and gentlemen. Active listening. When somebody tells you about their shit, that is not an invitation for you to try to fix it.
just
God,
sort of-
that took me so long to figure out, and I still fuck that up every once in a while.
Everybody fucks it up once in a while, like because sometimes you feel like you have a really good idea.
Yeah,
and
like,
you know,
I've experienced this. Like, I know it worked for me. It'll obviously work for you.
yeah.
Sit still.
And, you know,
Yeah.
there is a time and a place for sharing those thoughts, like when you're specifically asked for them, for
advice,
example.
for example.
Yeah. But yeah, what I'm just be excellent to each other, you know.
Ooh.
There's nothing quite like what exists between two people who are being genuine with one another.
Oh God, yeah, and it's fucking difficult to pull off, particularly if you are a abused, paranoid, anxiety-ridden, depressive person who can only access their emotions intermittently.
Yeah.
But it's still worth trying for.
And would you look at that? Despite the obstacles in our way, we got our job done in a timely manner.
Fuck yeah.
The metaphor
Everything is
completes
better.
itself once again.
The truck is truly the best medium of psychic communication. It can mean so many
Whoa.
important things.
That counted for a second.
Can you make it count again?
Yes. Oh, no. It's. So this game is so strict about this, but I guess there's some weird math going on. All right.
All right. I ain't complaining.
I left the.
Did you
there we go.
There we go.
We did it. We
Sweet.
did it.
And an excellent trucks, despite everything.
Wonderful,
about
wonderful. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Welcome to Trucks.
Yeah, it was trucks.
I wish you luck with whatever.
Change is possible.
Always. It's inevitable even.
Ooh.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.